Today I am answering the question, will Alec Baldwin face jail time now that he has involuntary manslaughter charges filed against him in the Rush shooting case? The title of this article, Will Alec Baldwin Face Jail Time? Explaining the actor's involuntary manslaughter charges. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. My name is Joe Pometto. I am Joe the lawyer. I am your host, a practicing attorney in Pittsburgh, PA. I do criminal defense, family law, and personal injury. If you like my content, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Trying to build my subscriber base, build my fan base, so any little thing can help. Also, consider signing up for my email list. You can see the link to sign up for the email list below in the description. You'll get all kinds of cool stuff, PDFs, legal information, and the quickest updates on new videos. Okay. One more second before we dig right into the article, everybody. I know the real reason you may have come here. Raise your cup, your glass in the air. We have the same time sip. Today I'm drinking coffee, the nectar of the gods. Enjoy your coffee with me. Cheers. Okay, now that Alec Baldwin and Rust Armorer, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, will be charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter in the 2021 shooting death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins, what happens to them in the Western movie itself? I'm not so concerned with the movie. The charges will be the charges which will be brought by the end of the month by prosecutors could carry sentences of up to 5 years in jail and signal to Hollywood movie makers that while the state of New Mexico welcomes their businesses, officials will be unsparing in their pursuit of film sets that are lax on safety. USA Today spoke with legal experts to explain what the Rust charges mean. So let's go down and follow this. What happened to Helena Hutchins on the set of Alec Baldwin's movie Rust? The Rust tragedy thrust a low-budget film overseen by a major Hollywood star into a harsh public spotlight. On October 21st, 2021, Baldwin, 64, was rehearsing a scene inside a church that required him to aim in the direction of cinematographer Hutchins when the prop gun he was holding, inexplicably loaded with a live round, went off, wounding director Joel Souza and killing Hutchins, 42. The production of Rust shut down while New Mexico authorities assembled evidence. In December 2021, Baldwin told ABC's George Stephanopoulos, and I covered that interview on this channel, in a sit-down interview that he didn't pull the trigger. Last fall, Hutchins' family revealed... Oh, my apologies here on the article. Let's get rid of these darn videos. Last fall, Hutchins' family revealed they had settled a lawsuit brought against Baldwin and the movie's producers. It was announced that Rust would resume production in 2023 with Hutchins' widower, Matthew, as an executive producer. Here we go. A nice picture of Alec Baldwin as a cowboy. What is involuntary manslaughter? Baldwin and Gutierrez Reed, who is responsible for ensuring that the weapons used on the set caused no harm, were charged with 2 charges of involuntary manslaughter. One determines whether there was underlying negligence, and the other requires that there was more than simple negligence in Hutchins' death. Both charges are a 4th-degree felony. In Pennsylvania, we only have 3rd degrees. There is no 4th degree. Punishable by up to 18 months in jail and a $5,000 fine. The latter charge also includes a firearm enhancement penalty, which is punishable by a mandatory 5 years in jail. Involuntary manslaughter is the lowest criminal charge to hold someone responsible for death of another person. That's pretty much true across the board in most states, I would say. This is according to Joshua Ritter, a criminal defense lawyer and partner at L. Dabe Ritter Trial Lawyers in Los Angeles. Even if someone is doing something lawfully, if that action could lead to the death of someone else without due caution, you can be held criminally liable. Will Alec Baldwin go to jail? It's possible, but legal experts have their doubts Baldwin in particular would receive jail time. Baldwin has already settled the suit brought by Hutchins' husband, who in his new role as a Rust producer is unlikely to help New Mexico prosecutors in aggressive pursuit of the film star, Ritter says. let me stop right there. So that's a bit of a power move on the part of Alec Baldwin and the producers, right? So Helena Hutchins has passed away from this tragic and terrible accident. Let's make her husband a producer on the film. That gives him a personal stake in seeing that the film is eventually produced and put out there. He also will receive a financial windfall that is probably much larger than anything he could have expected. If this had not had happened, right? His wife was maybe paid a salary or something along those lines. Now, no money can replace a human life. But Miss Hutchins has passed away, and now he has a financial stake in the movie itself. Not to mention, Baldwin already paid out a confidential, but we have no doubt, substantial settlement to this man. So why would this man want to turn around and put Alec Baldwin in jail? Now, it's not entirely up to him, and we'll talk about that more. I would be shocked if anyone did custody time on this. You can consider that jail time, maybe probation and community service and fines and fees and safety messaging. But to put Baldwin behind bars for what everyone still agrees is a horrific accident would be a bit much. But Baldwin is clearly whom New Mexico prosecutors want to hold accountable, says Niama Romani, a former federal prosecutor and president of West Coast Trial Lawyers in Los Angeles. This is a very aggressive charging decision, he says, noting that New Mexico lawmakers allotted $317,000 last fall to prosecutors working the Rust case to allow them to continue pursuing charges. That's a lot of money. You don't bark unless you're ready to bite. There's truth to that, but how big of a bite do the prosecutors want to take? Will armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed go to jail? It was Gutierrez-Reed's responsibility to ensure that Rust guns carried no live rounds, but a live round found its way into the chamber of Baldwin's gun, which was handed to the actor by assistant director David Halls, who called out "cold gun," indicating it did not contain live ammunition. This is just crazy. Why would active live rounds even be anywhere on or near the set? Excuse me. If it's determined Gutierrez-Reed didn't keep her set safe, she could be found liable for the accident. Experts say she was the armorer. It was on her watch that the accident happened, says Miguel Custodio, LA-based personal injury attorney and partner with Custodio and Doobie. They interviewed so many attorneys on this case. Why didn't they interview Joe the lawyer? Come on, guys. You got to help me raise my profile so I can get these fun interviews. Okay. Why wasn't assistant director David Halls charged in the shooting? Halls handed the gun to Baldwin at the rehearsal. His responsibilities included checking to ensure the gun did not have a live round, which it did. Halls would in theory seem as culpable in the accident as Baldwin and Gutierrez-Reed. In fact, more culpable, probably. But prosecutors said Thursday they reached a plea agreement with Halls that includes a suspended sentence and 6 months probation. Halls is the game changer, Custodio says, given that it suggests prosecutors plan to use what he knows as they pursue the charges against the actor and armorer. So what really is going on here is Mr. Halls is a cooperating witness. And even people not familiar with the judicial system, you know that sometimes people involved in crimes testify against their criminal partners, right? This is how the mafia was brought down. This is how drug networks are brought down, organized crime. The FBI, law enforcement, they pluck someone out of that organization and they give that person a deal, a sweetheart deal, and then that person becomes their key witness in proving the case. And that's what happened here. Mr. Halls is going to get probation in exchange for his testimony. Now, it's a little bit odd, but Baldwin probably wasn't going to become a cooperating witness. And if they wanted to go after Baldwin, they obviously wouldn't want him, right? They have targets. Generally, prosecutors and law enforcement are going to target certain people in the responsibility for a crime when there's multiple people. So, for instance, using the mafia example, they wanted to go for John Gotti, so they were willing to give Sammy Bull a deal because they wanted the head honcho. Here in this situation, they want to go after Gutierrez Reed, and she's probably ultimately the most culpable here. Really, the order is probably it might be Halls and Gutierrez Reed and Baldwin, or Gutierrez Reed, Hall, and then Baldwin. Baldwin's the least culpable here, and I will get into that in a second. But he's a cooperating witness. David Halls is a cooperating witness. And, they put it in very rosy language here, but that's what's going on. There's a safe assumption if Halls has accepted a plea, he will be helping the prosecution, Ritter says. There's a good chance both Baldwin and Gutierrez were offered pleas as well, but maybe they just didn't want to accept that. Don't be shocked if they both do negotiate something down the line. So maybe they didn't want to accept the opening plea, and they're going to wait until it gets closer to trial or until more evidence comes out before they make a final deal. That's probably sort of what's going on here. Would Alec Baldwin have been charged if he were the only an actor on the film? This is interesting here, and we're gonna follow. This is actually very interesting. This is one angle that I hadn't thought about that this article really informed me on. Possibly not. Hollywood movie sets traditionally have a strict protocol for handling firearms, one that typically involves multiple people, starting with the set armorer. Weapons are supposed to be checked and rechecked long before one is handed to an actor, who typically will not be a weapons expert. Your job is acting, and if you have to worry about whether a gun is loaded, that will impact your ability to act. So my feeling is that charges for Alec, listen to this, aren't about him as actor, but him as a producer. And it seems to be evidence his set was fast and loose when it came to weapons. Now this last, right here. I can't imagine, Ritter agrees, I can't imagine holding someone responsible if your only responsibility is hearing from an armorer that a weapon is safe so you can then act. Clearly, prosecutors feel there was a larger breakdown and that Baldwin was responsible. So let's talk about that right there. What do you guys think? Do you think that he would be found guilty if they went to trial? Would Alec Baldwin be convicted if they went to trial? In this right here, Ritter says, I can't imagine holding someone responsible if your only responsibility is hearing from an armorer that a weapon is safe. And I have to agree with him, right? Because as the actor, when you're an actor on a scene, okay, you are not responsible, if you're just an actor, you're not responsible for the entire set, for what everybody else around you is doing. And I believe when Brandon Lee was shot and killed by a live round in an accident eerily similar to this back in the 1990s, the person who shot him, I don't believe was ever convicted. And, just think about it, though. Put yourself in the shoes of Alec Baldwin. You're an actor. Now the prop is a firearm. That changes a little bit. But somebody hands you, you're about to shoot a scene, okay? They hand you a prop gun, okay? And it's your job to point it at somebody and pull the trigger. And that person who handed you the gun told you that it's cleared. So, is it his responsibility every time you get a gun to open it himself? Well, that doesn't appear to be the law. Maybe there should be laws that the person shooting the gun should look at it and figure it out and see if there's an actual live round. Maybe it should be on that person. But that might make shooting movies very, very onerous. So they're only putting it on this producer, this director who told him the gun was cleared, and then likely the armorer. And the armorer, that goes back to what I said about who's responsible for a live bullet actually showing up anywhere on the set. But let's think about it another way, right? Let's say you're a race car NASCAR driver, okay? That driver gets in that car to drive on the day of the race. He hasn't gone over every piece of that vehicle. He doesn't know that every screw is tight, every bolt is fastened, and every part of that vehicle is operating the way that it should be. What if one of the tires was screwed in incorrectly and loose, and he starts to pull out onto the track, and the back left tire flies off and whacks somebody in the head, and the person falls and their head hits the ground and they die from head injury? Should the race car driver be responsible for that when he had nothing to do with putting that tire on the car, on the vehicle itself? And, I used to be an F-15 aircraft mechanic, so I can understand this. The pilots that get into those jets, they put a huge amount of trust in the mechanics and the crew chiefs who were working on and fixing up that jet. Huge amount of trust. They can't be the ones to personally check every single thing on the jet, on the aircraft. Has to fall on somebody else. So I think if this went to trial, I actually think Alec Baldwin would win. I actually think he would win. Now, on the theory that he's responsible for the overall set, they might have a bit of a better chance at convicting him. Now, the armorer, and that goes back to the list of the responsibility here, Halls is perhaps the most responsible because he was the one who had the weapon in his hand and supposedly had checked it and handed it to Alec Baldwin and said, "This is not a live round." He was the one whose eyes were on that weapon. So the prosecution actually flipped the most culpable witness in order to go after perhaps the most high-profile individual, not the most culpable individual. Why would you do that as a prosecutor's office? Well, this is a high-profile case. They don't want to come across as weak. They don't want to come across as letting a high-profile actor get away with something. And the way for them to combat that is to go after the big fish. Baldwin's the big fish here, but in reality, he's probably the least culpable of those three. He's the least culpable. Now, if you go back to this, that he maybe they're going to claim that he's as responsible as the armorer, right? Because it's his set, because he's the big producer. That's maybe that's a little bit different. That puts culpability on him for the you have the theory of the exact action that happened, but then you also have him being put into the shoes similar to that of the armorer. They're holding him responsible on the same level as the armorer. But I think the armorer and Halls are perhaps the most responsible here. Now, I do think a deal will ultimately be cut where he does probation and pleads maybe to a lesser charge, or maybe Baldwin pleads to the felony and then does probation or something along those lines. Now, I had read something. I don't know if it was in this article. It might have been in a different article. Where the heck? Let me look here real quick. That a comment that the I think it was in a different article. So the prosecution in this case, they went for this weapons enhancement. And I don't know all the law on this, but Alec Baldwin's attorneys seem to believe that the weapons enhancement is just legally has zero basis because they're actually trying to apply that law retroactively. And legal error. Alec Baldwin accuses DA of basic legal error, asked judge to throw out 5-year gun enhancement. I don't know where I read it, but that appears to show that they went for this enhancement on the involuntary manslaughter, that they are really aggressively going after Mr. Baldwin, or at least making a show of the fact that they are aggressively going out. Here it is. Okay. In a response to Baldwin's motion to dismiss that weapons enhancement, the DA's office said Baldwin's fancy attorneys are trying to distract from the core issue. Let's see what they said here. Another day, another motion from Alec Baldwin and his attorneys in an attempt to distract from the gross negligence and complete disregard for safety on the Rust film set that led to Helena Hutchins' death. Brewer said, in accordance with good legal practice, the district attorney and the special prosecutor will review all motions, even those given to the media, before being served to the DA. Well, that's a little interesting, but we're getting to some sparring here. However, the DA's and the special prosecutor's focus will always remain on ensuring that justice is served and that everyone, even celebrities with fancy attorneys, is held accountable under the law. How do you feel about a district attorney making a comment like that? I think a district attorney should be very somber. Look, you're a politician and you have to get elected, so you're maybe going to want to do some grandstanding. Okay, I get that. But this statement had a bit of a feel to me. It had a feel to me similar to the Kyle Rittenhouse case. In the district attorneys in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, I thought they did a lot of grandstanding on that case too, filing charges that weren't really supported by the facts, making comments similar to this. And what happened? He ended up being acquitted. And the reason I thought they were doing that is because they wanted to appear to be extremely tough on someone in such a high-profile case. And I feel like the same thing is going on here. I think that this is a bit of bluffing. And look, in any poker game, you probably should bluff. But I think this is the DA's office. Sorry, you guys can't see that statement. I think here it is. The DA's office is kind of pumping up their chest, like, with that comment. We're going to go after celebrities and we're going to fight these fancy attorneys. And it gives me a feel like that case. So you guys watch the channel, I originally said that Baldwin was going to be charged. And then like a year went by and I said, it appears he's not going to be charged. And then boom, he was ultimately charged. So I was right. And then I changed my mind. I turned out to be wrong. And you need to stick with your original opinions, Joe, because you had it and you lost it. So I'll take the hit on that one. I did predict the Rittenhouse trial correctly. I did predict the Derek Chauvin trial correctly. I'm going to make a prediction here. I predict that if it goes to trial, Alec Baldwin will be acquitted. He will be found not guilty. I think the armorer may be found guilty. But I'm going to say this. I think Alec Baldwin will be found not guilty. The main victim here, the husband, is basically on Alec Baldwin's side and now will financially profit from Alec Baldwin remaining out of jail, being able to promote the movie. Alec Baldwin also appeared to make very sincere apologies, and I don't think that the victim's family here is looking at Alec Baldwin as evil or bad, and sometimes victims do, and sometimes they rightfully do, but you don't always know what you're going to get. And so I think Baldwin, and that's a big factor here, the victim's on his side. I think Baldwin wins this trial if it goes to trial. He might take a plea. If he takes a plea, it will not involve jail time. Those are my predictions. I hope you enjoyed my analysis of this case. It's a bit of a longer video. I will do further analysis on the Alec Baldwin case. My name is Joe Pometto, Joe the Lawyer. If you like my content, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. I'm a practicing attorney in Pittsburgh, PA. Sign up for my email list to get updates on the show, on my law practice in general, and cool stuff like how-to guides, like what to do when you're pulled over by the police. All right, thank you, everyone, for tuning in.